I was just telling everyone about what Cody and I do in terms of the invoices and how will oversee kind of the accounting concerns, and if they have other more project specific questions, you might be able to jump in and answer, or we can follow up with them.
Okay.
Does anybody have questions up front, or were you just kind of sitting in? I didn't see any come in through the email, but if any have come in recently, let me know.
I have a couple just to clarify. We've gotten kind of like we had through our meetings with Donald McDonald the okay on certain things, but just wanted to clarify the billing of certain activities that we're doing, making sure they're within the confines of the grant and its mission. We hired an employee to do strictly the work through the JBS grant. Of course, once the curriculum is sent, we'll be executing that when we get trained on that. But in the meantime, what he has been doing is attending different community parent cafes in the community, doing outreach, supporting family members affected by substance use disorder. He attends a local family engagement advisory board. He attends different parent cafes in the community, which are community led, but he's been trained on the implementation of ACE scores and protective factors. So he's able to participate and assist during those meetings. And he'll go to our outreach events and help promote other activities that we are involved in a separate grant that help with families, such as we assist fathers in recovery. We have a group that we've been actually able to expand a little bit on that with his help. So I just want to make sure that those are kind of all in line with what we're doing. Of course, until we receive the curriculum, we'll be focusing on training as well and promoting that.
A lot of those are in line, obviously. Part of this, especially events that you are doing, I mean, we want them to be engaged with the community. At some point, you don't want them to be professional meeting attenders and go to every meeting and think it's part of this. But I think those activities that you're doing to increase awareness of recovery coaching and some of those things are within the scope of what peer recovery coaches do a lot of times, because it's about engagement. So the answer to that is yes, but pay attention to how many meetings they're going to and exactly what the purpose of the meeting is.
Yes, ma'am, absolutely. Because
Yeah.
the intention is we always want to help them. Part of making them aware of the services, but also help. So he is also he's taken his training in Sierra Certified Recovery Peer Specialist training.
Absolutely, that counts. All that counts.
Okay. All right. And he's going to have the family designation. Of course, he'll also take the training that'll be provided to supplement that.
Yeah, because Frank, we're not trying to replace the certification training for peer recovery coach or peer recovery specialist, whatever they're called. We're not trying to replace that. That is part of this. The training that we're developing is that family-centered piece of that. So if they're engaged in those activities to get their certification, absolutely, that's exactly what we want.
Mm-hmm. Yes, ma'am. Yep. And we're looking forward to, because there's been a lot of interest in our community. We have people that have already obtained their certification and they have that family designation, but they've always wanted like a more well-rounded training attached to that. So we've got a lot of people looking forward to that. And we already have facilitators, like the assigned lead, Jordan. She's already trained facilitator in recovery choices training, which counts for the part of the training. So she'll be able to do both once the other is available. So yeah, we've got a lot of interest. People are really excited.
And that's great, because we're gonna give that to you. But if you've got, when we get ready to do this training, now we're going to give you the training, so you're going to be the trainers of the training. But you know, if you want to invite 100 peer recovery coaches to the training and expand that, that's exactly what we would hope you would do, because this is building your community capacity. And then your trainers can do this going forward, you know, so you can keep doing it even long after the funding for this goes away, because this is, you know, this is about building your community's capacity to sustain it. And then with our partnership with NADAC and our partnership with Social Current for the COA accreditation, then, you know, our goal in this is to build these in that, so it gets sustained just through that even. So there's multiple strategies to sustain and continue to build capacity for the family-centered piece.
Wonderful. Yeah, that's looking forward to it. Absolutely.
Thank you,
Heather, were
Claire.
you going to walk through the form?
Yeah, I was gonna see if anybody else had anything immediate before I share and start talking. I'm gonna share our guidance, which you should have received with this invite, but please let me know if you don't have it and we'll make sure that you get it. Are you all seeing my screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So invoices are due on the 15th of each month. They are to be submitted to invoices@jbsinternational.com. You can CC Karen and me or Cody if you want to. Invoices is pretty good about sending us as soon as they come in, and making sure that everybody's kind of in the loop on the team. So here are some of the details that you'll need to make sure are included. If we receive invoices without these details, a lot of the times we'll have to follow up and get corrections. So I just wanted to make sure that everybody's very clear up front on what these requirements are so that we can hopefully avoid that. So the subrecipient name, the TIN or EIN, your subaward agreement ID and project name. So this, in your agreement that you should have all received, there's a number here that starts with this 00935, and that's going to be your agreement ID that you'll include on each invoice that you submit. The invoice number starts from 1, and you'll just work your way up from there. The invoice date and billing period will usually be the by the due date for the invoice date, and then for the billing period, it would be for the month before. So you can do from the 1st to the 30th or the 31st. JBS project billing numbers for the tasks deliverables. I think most of that would probably be billed to this number. Cooperative agreement, labor hours, staff name and cost by position, task and subtask. Very rarely do we ask for a lot of detailed breakdown about the staffing costs. Like some people will submit from their payroll system the hours worked. We ask that subawards keep track of that, but it's not required to submit with each invoice unless somebody reaches out and asks for it directly. For this one about travel, you should have determined if travel is included in your project when you were formulating your budget. So that's what in your agreement it'll say too whether or not your organization is or is not authorized for travel. So that's what this is. And generally we don't need you to submit any additional evidence that you're authorized because it's in your agreement, but we do need the travel expenses, any receipts or reimbursement amounts that you can provide. The total amount due is just going to be the sum that you're expecting for that invoice based on the things that you billed for. Current and cumulative amount. So the current is the total amount and the cumulative amount is going to be kind of tracking your spending for all of the invoices that you've submitted so far. So just to align with your budget, and then we'll check that against our records and make sure that everything's aligning and there aren't discrepancies in those amounts. That might be calculation errors. Budget status by line item. Karen, you want to take this one?
One of the things we have to do as we develop these do this reporting on finances is allocate the cost that your expenses to our line items. So it's really important when you send us your invoice, we just don't get, okay, here's for the month of July, our total was $3,000. So we need to know the breakout of where these expenses fall within the line items based on the budget that you submitted, so that we can allocate those expenses to the correct budget. So a couple of things I would say in the approval process is please pay attention to number 3. If that subaward agreement ID number is not on that, it's going to come back to you. And really look at how you submit your invoices and submit costs by line items so we can tell. And another thing that makes it easy for us is you have a month and then you have your cumulative cost. So it's very helpful for us if you say this is the amount for July, but this is what we've spent year to date. That's also very, very helpful. Because remember, there are 10 of you. Plus we have all of our advisory council members, plus we have all of our partners. So there are a lot of invoices coming in. And when we submit our financial reporting to OVC, we have to be able to say where this money went.
The substantiating documentation or other information is just mostly going to be the records just certifying that these were expenses that you incurred, or if you are billing things to multiple projects, you'll include a breakdown of how much you're expecting from JBS for reimbursement. And that's kind of on a case-by-case basis. Again, if you're just billing for staffing at this point, then you probably will just have that one invoice page. But anything else would need something documenting the expense. And then this one is kind of a small thing, but it's something that comes up a lot as missing that gets sent back. So just bring your attention here to avoid the hassle over something so small. But we have this certification statement here that you'll just place around your signature. I hereby certify that all payments requested are basically you're agreeing to spend money on what you were approved to spend money on and meeting all of the conditions of your agreement. And if there are any questions from us about the invoice or corrections needed, we'll need the name and information for the person, the point of contact for accounting or invoicing. And we need the organization name, or I'm sorry, the individual name, title, telephone number, and mailing address of whomever is the recipient of the payment. So whichever individual is in your organization is dedicated to that process. And this information is included in your agreement on pages 4 and 5. So in addition to this, if there's additional context that you're looking for, you might scan through there and see if that answers your question. But for now, have any questions come up as we're going through these requirements?
Payments are sent via check.
We do have an ACH form that I can send out.
Okay,
That's
yes.
usually faster processing. So yeah, we can get those sent out. I'll send that to all of the subaward organizations so that everybody can request. Any other questions? I'll go ahead and while I have my screen up, show you the sample invoice template that we put together too. You can use this template, or if you have a form that works for you, feel free to use that as long as it includes all the required information. But this was also sent out with the invite.
Are we able to use our own internal sequential invoice number?
We ask that invoicing starts at number 1 for JBS. If you want to include that, that's fine for your own records, but we'll just need the invoice number, like according to our system too.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Karen or Cody, do you have anything else to add?
No, I don't. We're gonna, I mean, we have a second one for this, and we're gonna do these a couple of times until everybody gets very comfortable with the invoicing process. But at any time, if there's a question, as Heather said, please don't hesitate to reach out. We want to be responsive to you, and we don't want you to have to spend a lot of time worrying about things. We particularly don't want to delay your getting your money. So anytime there's a question, you can reach out at any time, but you know, we're going to do these a couple of times until everybody kind of gets really comfortable as a way to talk about the process. And then, you know, identify, are there any glitches that people are having, anything they don't know, or any other questions they have, we can get those answered at that time.
Do
And
do we
we-
do we do we know when the next invoice meeting will be held? So that way I can be able to have my billing department attend as well, because I'm pretty much I complete the invoice, but I think they do all the rest of the detailing, sending it out, receiving, and stuff like that. So I think it would be, I should have invited him, but I totally forgot.
We should be doing these on a monthly basis for at least the first couple of months. So I don't know, depending on how many people, I guess, show up to our next week's session, then we'll decide whether or not we need 1 or 2. We'll try to get that out well in advance so you have time to prepare too. But it will be during the first half of next month in September before the invoices are due.
But we do have one scheduled next Tuesday, right, Heather?
Yes, we do. If
Yeah.
you want to give them that invitation, if somebody else wants to come and sit in and probably review that invoicing requirement document again, you can invite them to the second one, which is Tuesday at 1 p.m. Eastern.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Sure.
Is there a time deadline on the 15th? Like, is it by 5 p.m.? Is it a certain specific time, or do we have until, you know, later in that day?
Like me, midnight.
Yeah, there's some flexibility, definitely.
Okay. And then
We
if
just
if
need to
things
get
are
it
kicked
that
back
day.
because we're kind of figuring. Okay. And if it's kicked back after that day, I guess obviously it might get kicked back after that day. Are we at risk of
No.
correcting them? Okay.
Oh,
You're
you're
not
just need
at
to make sure
risk
we
of
hit that
losing
main
your
deadline.
money, but you won't get it as quickly.
Got it. Okay, obviously, yeah. Okay.
But yeah, when JBS checks it, that's when it's in our hands then, and any corrections that we would need, we would reach out to you after we've had a chance to review it thoroughly. So we don't expect that all to be done same day for all 10 subawards.
And I'm sorry if I missed this part. For everything except for salaries, we should be submitting the receipts.
Yes, anything
what
that you
you
have
were saying?
documentation for.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Especially with travel. With travel, there's just usually a lot more attention to those calculations and double checking the expenses. So we'll definitely want documentation for travel.
So I have a question about salaries. Do you need you don't need timesheets or backup for or do you?
You don't need to submit those to us with each invoice. If there's a need for them at some point, we would reach out and ask. So we do ask that our subawardees track that information. But as long as you have a system where you can pull it up if it's requested, they don't need to be submitted at the time of the invoice.
Okay, thank you very much.
Sure. If there are no other questions, we can probably wrap up early. But I will get those ACH forms out, so anybody that's interested in that can get those authorized. It depending on when your invoice is submitted, I'm not sure if this one would be sent out as a check for the first one or how long that would take the accounting team to process that. But I think that it goes into effect pretty quickly. And if it's not this first invoice period, it should be next.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone. Appreciate your time today.
Absolutely.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.